In-depth journalism in the Memphis community, the Daily Memphian is of Memphis, not just in Memphis, and seeks to tell the stories of this city. TheDailyMemphian.com. Truth in place.
Welcome back to another edition of the Daily Memphian's Memphis Grizzlies podcast. This is your host, Grizzlies writer Drew Hill, joined as always by Chris Herrington. We are coming to you from the Daily Memphian podcast studio on a Wednesday. There's a Grizzlies game tonight against the Phoenix Suns. It's old friend Dylan Brooks back in the building to stare down the crowd and take on a few of his former teammates. But we're also coming to you after a Grizzlies win, and not just any Grizzlies win, a Grizzlies win over a team with a winning record. Chris, how much are you celebrating today?
I got my party hat on. I got the little kazoo I'm going to blow or whatever. That's your party hat. That's my party hat. Yeah, I'm wearing a hat. Yes, I tend to.
It's like a peak. Let me describe this bad podcasting.
Do it.
This is a brown wool Peaky Blinders hat. For lack, I don't know what it's called, so just imagine it in your head. It's a Peaky Blinders hat with the plaid and red stripes.
It is actually actual
Blue
Harris
red
tweed
stripes.
from Scotland, purchased
Scotland.
in Scotland. This is me acknowledging my age. I'm still a hat guy, but you're wearing the backward baseball cap. You're acting like you're still in college.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yes. You're acting like you're still in college. Yeah. I've accepted. I'm older than you, so you're not in the tweed. You're not in the wool cap range of your life yet. I have accepted I am in that range of my life. You're still acting like you're back at the frat house.
I mean, maybe, yeah. What am I supposed to say?
You're a father now,
What am I
Drew.
supposed to say about the backwards hat thing? I'm just a backwards hat guy.
Yeah, there we go.
For the most part. This is a Chicago Blackhawks hat in honor of our beautiful boy Connor Bedard, probably coming back today. So there's a hockey reference. If you were, I guarantee you, no one listening to this podcast was awaiting a hockey reference. But yes, I am wearing the backwards Blackhawks hat. Okay, how did we even get there? I don't even know how we got to that topic.
We were having a party because the Grizzlies won a game. They won a home game.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
they won a home game. They got a victory. I've been having to do this because I've been writing these sentences a little bit lately and not having the word win multiple times in a sentence. They got a home victory over an opponent who brought a winning record into the game for the first time, and this includes postseason, because when they beat the Dallas Mavericks at FedEx Forum in the play-in, that team had a losing record. This is the first time the Grizzlies had done this since January 30th of last year, nearly a year, where they beat the Houston Rockets, another 1-point win, 120 to 119. They still haven't won, by the way, a home game against a team with a winning record with Ja Morant in the lineup. This still hasn't happened because Ja didn't play last night. You got to go back to January 20th of last year, MLK Day against Minnesota, the last time that happened.
So it's been almost a year since we've had reason to celebrate with Chris's party hat like this.
Yeah. I mean, they won a home opener. They've had some home wins, and you always like the home wins, but it's wild to not have, literally no home wins against good teams.
And this comes on the heels of, I remember, some of those seasons when they won 50 games, just
they were beating everybody
at home.
Yeah.
They just mark it as a win if they're playing at home in some of those seasons. And for whatever reason, that has not been the case. So, I took note last night too. It was just fun to be in the building for that one. And you had the game story, so you were sitting down low, and I was sitting in pinnacle level. But I kind of liked...
I got my cell phone photo of Wemby waiting to check in, which I sent to my son. My current view obstructed.
I have more on that in a second. But I was going to the elevator to go back down to the media level after the game, and it was fun to just walk through the concourse, and everybody was celebrating and talking about what an awesome, fun game that was. And it just feels like we haven't had that in a long time at FedEx Forum. It was nice to see the two high school kids high-fiving, talking about how awesome the game was.
This is an instructive point, because whenever people talk about, what's the big picture, what can you do, can can you win a title, or do you really want to like be the whatever seed? And it is fun. You have a team in your city. Only 28 cities have these because New York and LA have 2. You got a team in your city, and like the games are fun when the team is playing hard, and when they play hard and when they win, it doesn't matter. It didn't matter in that moment to most of the people there that, oh, well, they're 3 games under 500 and, this team is probably not going to make a run this year. All that disappears in the moment of enjoying being in the building for the win.
Yes. And it was definitely a fun game. Okay, back to your photo of Wemby.
Yeah.
It's like freakish to see him stand on a basketball court near some of these other guys. Like
It's
he
funny.
makes Jock Landale look small. And it's just hilarious to watch.
At one point when he was on the floor, I had this experience. I looked up and like there's just a bunch of players standing around. It's sort of during the stoppage, but everybody's on the floor. And there's just this head that's floating above all the other heads out there. And that's Wemby's head.
Yeah. I'm going to tell on someone, but I was sitting next to our friend Parker Fleming
Yeah.
upstairs, who received a text.
Shout out Paka Flocka or whatever he
Yeah.
is on social media.
Who received a text from someone who, I don't know if was like really that level in depth with the Spurs, but it just said, who is the really tall with about 15 L's guy?
Right.
Like because he makes everybody else on the court look so small.
Well,
like to me, there's two.
That would not have been the case if Zach Edey were around.
Right. Yeah, no, that's probably true. To me, really, there's 2 players in the league that are just so physically imposing, and that's Wemby and Giannis.
Yep.
To where I feel like it is so worth it to go buy a ticket, even if you're not a fan of the team, to watch them play. Because you just don't see players that have physical gifts like that. And it just occurred to me, too, watching Wemby play last night, and I promise we're going to get to the Grizzlies. I mean, we got Cam Spencer and stuff to talk about, but when Wemby dribbles, he has to that ball has to bounce pretty high up.
He shot.
I thought about that. That occurred to me last night.
He made a shot in the first half that was like a 5-foot shot, like off glass. Kind of a weird shot to shoot, a little push shot, like off the glass. He shot it downward. It was the most living room Nerf hoop looking shot I've just about ever seen on a basketball floor.
Yeah,
it's just wild stuff.
If I'll get out there and say it now, the Spurs will be back in FedEx Forum in March. I don't know if Wemby's going to be playing in that game.
We don't know if Edey will be playing. But
we don't know. But like, if I could pick a game that I was going to go to, a Grizzlies game the rest of the year, like, I don't know. Who knows where the Grizzlies will stand at that point in March? As we've noted on this podcast, there's a lot. This is going to be a very interesting trade deadline, but it is worth it. It's so fun to watch them play basketball.
It hasn't materialized. They've played 3 games against each other, and we've gotten 0 of these. And Zach Edey, even in your wildest dreams, is not as good as Wemby, although Zach Edey was really good earlier this year. But just the contrast of those 2 guys and having them in the same division where those teams do play 4 times a year, I want that to be one of the interesting subplots in the NBA, is the Zach Edey Wemby thing.
Yeah, that'd be great. I think we're already getting the Wemby versus the Thunder thing. Like that's already well on its way. I have a very close friend who's a gigantic OKC fan who grew up in Oklahoma City, and let's just say everybody else in the group text was really giving him a hard time last night that the Thunder can't seem to beat the Spurs, yet here the Grizzlies are with 9 guys out, and they make it happen.
Maybe they need to trade for Vince Williams and Cam Spencer.
Tis the NBA. It was obviously an awesome game for Cam Spencer. We could get into the late game stuff, but I don't know what's new to say about Cam. Right? I found myself thinking about this morning on the drive in here. What is new to say about Cam that we haven't already said? He's a gamer. You trust him with the late shots. He made those 2 shots. He's become more than just a 3-point specialist. I don't know what's new for us to add.
I thought it was interesting last night because he went through that 4-game losing streak they were on. That was a bad 4-game stretch for Cam Spencer. He scored a total. He had scored double digits like 15 games in a row or something like that. He scored a total of 25 points in that 4-game losing streak. The highest he had in any game was 8. I think he was something like 2 of 13 total from 3 in that 4-game stretch. He was 1 of 10, I think, from the floor. I'm making up numbers, but I think they're right. In that second game against the Lakers, he had been, to me, I wrote about this week. To me, it wasn't, good shooters have bad stretches. You'd be the best shooter in the world, and you could have a stretch where you shoot poorly for a few games. I thought it was a case of Cam Spencer's on the scouting report now. He is higher on the scouting report now. He has earned, through his good play, he has earned more defensive attention, and then he's been getting it. And I think, you watch that Lakers game when they got Marcus Smart on him. The first play of the second half, that second Lakers game, they threw a half-court trap at Cam Spencer. Like, they're just – defenses are throwing things at him and having more attention to him now than they would have earlier in the season. And I think that's been part of the reason for his struggles. And it's a thing, like, you earn the extra attention, now you have to adjust to it, right? And that was a game where – he seemed like he adjusted to it. He got a couple of open looks that he made early on. He got a three. There was a Jock Landale assist, I think, top of the key. And then early in the fourth quarter, a play I wrote about where Vince Williams set him up a transition right in the pocket for like in rhythm, catch and shoot. And after that, it felt like he had his rhythm back. And then he was making hard shots. It was I'm dribbling around for 20 seconds and I see a crack of daylight and I'm making a mid-range shot that I'm getting fouled on. It was that kind of stuff. And once he got his rhythm and his confidence, he really got into a groove.
I've said this on the podcast. I've said this on the radio, all that. Cam Spencer, more than any other player, is the player I've seen play one-on-one at the end of practice. And it happens pretty frequently. To let you know how it sort of sets up, there's like one full court at the Grizzlies practice facility, and then there's another full court that crosses over that full court, and so it kind of creates this half-court scenario. And a lot of times after practice, players will play like 3-dribble one-on-one, basically. So you get it's just like one-on-one, but you can't dribble more than 3 times. You have to get a shot after 3 dribbles.
Right.
And Cam's always playing, and I've seen him play against all kinds of different competition. And Cam just busts dudes in one-on-one. Like Gigi said, I've played against him in those settings. There were times when, summer league, whenever, that I had to play against Cam one-on-one, and he would just basically whoop my butt. And I just found myself thinking about that moment as I watched the last mid-range shot go in, because it was just him on an island by himself with Luke Cornett on him.
He got the switch on Cornett. He set him up. He got to his spot.
It feels like I've seen him shoot that 100 times over, and so to me that was kind of cool to get to connect those dots there. Maybe this is anecdotal, and I think it is, because I've sort of run through the stats. When Cam Spencer scores 17 this season, Memphis is 5-5. When he scores 20, they're 2-2. Of those games when he scored 20, one of them was that already very close Spurs game on the road earlier this season. And then the other loss was to Utah at home, a game they scored well but didn't play any defense. It feels like to me, Cam or Santi on any given night for this team to be competitive just has to be good. Like, I put what Ja and Jaren do aside, like one of those guys has to show up in order for this team to be competitive against the better teams.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't dug into the numbers to see if that's true, but it certainly sounds like that.
It feels like it, right? It's totally anecdotal.
Well,
but it feels like
it makes sense because when you look at the roster, it's an interesting roster. I think the roster is actually really talented, top to bottom, and I think if they were healthy, they'd be pretty good. But it's a roster that has a lot of like so-so athletes on that, and Cam Spencer's one of them. But Cam Spencer's a so-so athlete with a very high skill level as a shot maker. And there'll be lineups out there a lot of times of guys who like can't do a lot on their own. You look up and it's Jalen Wells and it's Jock Landale, and these guys are good in the right spots, right? But they're not like people who are going to create something out of nothing very well. Whereas Cam and Santi have the skill level to like go get shots and make tough shots like that.
Santi gets the game-winning block at the end. So that was
Vince Williams.
Not a great game for Santi. We should get to Vince.
Vince said, Santi gets the credit. He got the block. I'm like, no, I'm going to give you more of the credit.
Yeah,
you sort of set him up for that block. I think it was the Vince Williams defense down the stretch was very key.
So that was interesting to me.
Yep.
Because I texted you during the game. And look, Jalen Wells is a solid defender.
Yep.
But he's not really a disruptor, nor is he like the quickest defender.
That's right.
He's just a sound defender that's almost never in the wrong spot. And so he's very trustworthy in that way. But late in that game, Fox was cooking him pretty good.
Yep.
And they make the switch. Isolo goes to Vince Williams Jr. And right before he made that switch, I texted you, Fox is just pretty much dominating Jalen Wells on the offensive end over these last few possessions. And Jalen Wells had done a good job on Fox earlier in the game, but so I don't want to just say that he played terribly, but he did get scored on several times in those last few minutes. And I think that decision to go to Vince Williams Jr. was a winning decision made by Tomas Isolo, somebody who's gotten a lot of flack. Well, he also said after the game, and I'm just curious what you think of it, that maybe Jalen Wells got a little banged up or was dealing with a bruise or something, and that's why he made the switch. I don't know.
I think there may be something to that, but also maybe just a little bit of cover for, you don't want to sound like, this is one of your guys. It's one of the most reliable guys in your team is Jalen Wells, right? So it's okay. Like, you got a lot of guys on the team. It's okay for there to be situational substitutions. Mm-hmm. Maybe there should be more. Like maybe Ja Morant should have been on the bench for the last defensive possession in that OT game against the Sixers, right?
Right.
Vince Williams is a different kind of defender, to your point, than Jalen Wells. He's not as big as Jalen Wells, but he's got a bigger wingspan. He's a little bit quicker. He's a little bit more aggressive. He's more of a get in your jersey, harassing kind of, a pest. The bug leapt into action. I thought he was great. Those last 2 or 3 stops that the Grizzlies had guarding Fox, and I thought he was just great the whole game. Now you don't always get the good 3-point shooting with Vince Williams. You happen to get it in this game, but when you add that to like just the physicality he plays with and all of that, I thought top to bottom, end to end, he was the best player on the Grizzlies in that game.
His pass to Cam Spencer, honestly, may have been what got Cam Spencer going in transition.
That was what it felt like. I mean, I was sitting right in front of it when it happened, and that sort of
Cam acknowledged that himself after the game. And you just leave the game thinking it's a shame this guy can't stay healthy.
No, it really is. There's two issues with him. One, the big one is he's a durability issue. It's not, I don't want to. Grizzlies have multiple players who have durability issues. He is one of them, right? And so that's an issue. And then the 3-point shooting is erratic, right? If you told me, and I'm sort of in the bag for this guy anyway, but if you stipulated he will have no more durability issues than the average player, it's not really a particular problem of his. Like he's going to be durable, and he's going to be a consistent 38% 3-point shooter, I would tell you put him in the starting lineup. But those things are not true, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, and we know this is a type of player that Memphis likes of that style because Cedric Howard's that style, right? Like the exact same thing.
Cedric Howard is like the bigger, like elite version of it.
They're the same. They're the same type of player.
A little bit. Coward is not shown. It's interesting. Coward like Vince rebounds above his station.
That's my point.
Punches way above his station. He does not. Coward's better. Let's be clear.
Obviously,
but Coward does not. He is not as disruptive a defender to this point as Vince Williams is.
Yeah.
He's a solid defender. He's almost a little bit more of a Jalen Wells kind of defender than a Vince Williams kind of defender.
But Cedric Howard is one of those players where you go look at on off, and when he's on, it's just the impact is extreme.
Cedric Howard, by the way, before the game when they're all just out on the court shooting around, no boot, out there just dribbling around. It was good to see.
But my point in comparing the two of them is that they're not the same player, right? Because Vince can't go to the basket.
That's right.
He's not. Doesn't have the size,
That's
right? And he's also not as good of a shooter as Cedric. Yeah. But the build is similar, just in different positions. Yeah. The build is this incredibly long wingspan, really hard-nosed, has a nose for the ball type of rebounder that rebounds well above their size and is an impact player defensively. Both players are the same in that way.
Yeah.
But obviously, Cedric Howard, given his athleticism and size, I think a little bit further along there. But yeah, I thought a very good game for Vince Williams Jr. last night. Another one that we needed to note. And then what did you make of the block by Santi? I know you said you're wanting to give more credit to to Vince Williams. Santi didn't have his best game, still did make an impact play.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, again, it's collaborative as defense tends to be. I think Vince sort of corralled him and shaded him into the help defense, and then Santi got the block. Santi's a gamer. I mean, Santi, his offensive production sort of comes and goes. We talked about this recently where it feels like for a lot of stretch, he'll either score 20 or he'll score 10. Like there's not a lot of – it averages out to like 15, but he doesn't actually score 15 that much. It's sort of up and down. But he 9 rebounds in this game. He's a gamer. He's a good feel. I think he plays hard. A lot of guys are like this. I thought about Santi, and I really thought about Jock Landale, who I've sort of been on and off on this season. I thought about Jock Landale in this regard in that game. Those guys, and maybe even more so Landale, but Santi too, have what Taylor Jenkins used to call care factor. Mm-hmm. And you really saw it with them last night, like really wanting to get that win.
I'll say this for Santi, because I remember the times when his toughness has been questioned. And I'm not saying he's some extremely physical player.
He's not.
But he's become one of the better rebounders on the Memphis Grizzlies for sure.
Yep.
His defensive rebounding percentage is at 16.3% this season. That's 0.0. I mean, different position, but that's, Cedric Howard is at 16.4. So obviously really good. The only player that actually has played significant minutes, so I'm excluding Gigi Jackson here, with a higher defensive rebounding percentage is Zach Edey.
Yeah.
Than Santi Aldama. Santi Aldama also in the top 80% in block percentage among bigs that are forwards this season. So doing the physical things a lot better this season, and I think that's a big positive for Santi. The offense has been a little inconsistent, but he's still capable of jumping up and giving you a 25,
I think
30.
the dividing line for him is space to operate. When you think about the blocks and you think about the rebounds, that is it's the effort to want to get those things, but it's also that's a little bit of his length and athleticism and anticipation in play, along with the desire to get it done. I think when he has to like guard defensively in close quarters, that's where he's not the biggest, most rugged physical guy. That's where that becomes more.
No, I would agree, but I think the rebounding is something that this team needed, especially given the injuries, and he's gotten a lot better at that, and he's blocking more shots than he ever has. So those are two big positives. What do you make of his contract? He obviously got the extension. It was a contract at the time we said was tradable.
Yeah.
I mean, look, again, we don't know exactly what the Grizzlies are planning to do, but it is an option that the Grizzlies could overhaul things. And I imagine a guy like Santi Aldama is somebody that a lot of teams across the league would have a ton of interest in if he were ever on the trade market.
It's interesting. I think the per year dollar figure for him, 17.5 or whatever it is like a fair dollar figure. It's not a bargain dollar figure. It's not like a bad, it's sort of it's a totally reasonable number for him. But the third year, it's a 3-year deal this year and 2 after. And the third year is team option. So that gives the teams flexibility. You can, so that would make him more valuable to other teams having that team option. And to your point, he's the kind of player, he might necessarily start for a lot of teams, depends on your roster construction, but he can play for anybody because he can play across the front. He can play small forward. He can play across the front line. He can play with the ball. He can play without the ball. So he has a lot of utility too. And so, it'll be interesting to see the way the Grizzlies operate going forward. It is a tradable contract, but I don't necessarily think, they're looking to trade it.
Yeah, I don't think so either, but and it was given his age and all that too, and the fact that it is what appears to be not necessarily a bargain, but a fair deal, as you said.
Yeah.
All sort of important. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit about the Lakers games that preceded the big win.
Want to make a big impact without getting lost in a big system? Join Youth Villages to be a force for families while becoming part of one. Help make positive changes on a national scale, one community at a time. It takes a family to transform lives. Start with yours. Apply now at youthvillages.org/careers.
So before we got to the big Spurs win, we did have 2 losses in Los Angeles, which honestly, both of those games they were disappointing in the fact that they lost and that they lost them close sort of at the end. To me, the difference was that the Lakers had some closers on the floor in those minutes, and it just felt like the Grizzlies didn't have anybody that would necessarily,
I don't know how you felt in the moment. The second game, Coward is just awesome in the first half of that game.
Yeah.
And when that injury, they were up like 9 late in the second quarter when that injury happened. When that injury happened, I could see the destination. The destination was a close loss, and you can see it on the horizon. Now you just got to suffer through 26 minutes of basketball to get to the inevitable destination once he was out.
I did feel the same way. It was a repeat. It was a rerun. Both of the and I remember writing that on Sunday, that both of the games basically felt like they had the exact same script. It is really frustrating watching the Lakers just march to the free throw line that many times.
I'm usually not the complaint about the refs guy, but that second game was rough.
It's not okay. Now I'm gonna get on my basketball pedestal. Like, the players that I just don't enjoy watching quite as much are the players that do that a lot. I'm just gonna say it, like the Luka and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and those types of players. I'm not saying that they get a whistle that's better than anybody else, but the Trae Young stuff. I mean, they've tried to take some of the foul drawing out of the game. Some of the stationary ones where you just lean into some guy who's flying past you and you draw a foul, but it feels like it ruined the flow of the game with how many foul shots were taken. And, the Lakers are good at that, though. So I don't want to take away all the credit for it, because the Lakers so often end up shooting a bunch of foul shots in a game. It wasn't just this one situation where you feel like the Grizzlies got screwed by the refs or whatever. The Lakers, of all the teams that have shot 41 free throws in a game, I think there's been 20. It's happened 25 times this season. The Lakers have done it like 4 or 5 times. So they're good at that, but it just was a frustrating game to watch at the end. I thought, it kind of takes the entertainment value out of it.
Well, what was galling to me, and I don't think free throws weren't even involved, but there was some play in that second game where the officials made what was probably a correct call, and then LeBron James badgered them into changing the call to what was probably an incorrect call. That's the one where Pranica and Brevin were sort of apoplectic. I agree. I don't enjoy it.
Okay. Do we need to talk anymore about I don't think we need to talk about the Lakers games anymore. There was in my old age, I have a hard time remembering past the most recent game. Honestly, looking back. Ja played the first game, did not play the second. Yeah. And who we don't know what his status will be tonight when the Grizzlies take on
That's
the
a good point.
Suns.
As we record, we're recording, day of game here where they're playing the Suns here on Wednesday night, and they have not put out. I don't think
this is bad podcasting, but Chris, go ahead and stall. I'm going to check the NBA's official injury report. Not that it's going to matter, because most people are going to listen to this afterwards.
When it's a back-to-back, you don't have to put out a thing as early. Typically, the injury report will go out the afternoon before the next day's game, but that's not the case with the back-to-back, and so it's really after your shoot-around. And the Grizzlies did not have a shoot-around, or at least not one they invited us to. They probably did, honestly.
Yeah, not yet submitted.
Right. So we'll see. I wondered about the Ja thing. I had said on radio with our pal Jeff Calkins, forgetting about the back-to-back, I had said, I bet Ja probably plays, because this is the second game in a row he's been questionable with this calf contusion, and questionable usually means like it's a game time decision, like you might be able to play, and to not play 2 games in a row, questionable would seem odd to me. But I'd forgotten about the back to back. So what I'm curious about is, was there a conscious, we're not going to play both halves? You play in both halves of the back to back, so let's wait for tomorrow night. In which case he would play tonight, or is there a chance he doesn't play again tonight? In which case, just doesn't feel like the kind of injury you miss that many games with.
No, it doesn't, does it?
Right.
Yeah. And then on Cedric Coward, Isla said that they avoided serious injury and that the timeline will be shorter than they maybe initially thought, which is a good thing. There was some
vague, by the way, shorter.
And look, he was dealing, and I mentioned this in the game story, and you mentioned this on Jeff's show. But he was dealing with a heel thing that was serious enough.
On the same foot, right?
Yes, on the same foot that was serious enough to where they felt like they really needed to manage his minutes,
right,
and seemed very committed to that, which means it wasn't nothing, right?
Right.
And so for the injury to happen on the same leg, same foot area was immediately what came to mind for me was, oh no, I hope something's bad didn't just happen.
Right.
So it's good to hear Isolo say that it's not serious. So I know there's some people like, what does not serious mean?
Yeah,
it means whatever it was that he was dealing with before, this seems to be something separate.
Yeah. And again, the fact that he was just out on the floor, no boot, dribbling around, I assume it's going to be a matter of days, not a matter of weeks with him, but we'll see.
Live cryptic tweet from Ja Morant alert. Sometimes it be like that. Keep going. Prayer hands emoji.
Oh my God.
Do you care? Do you care to try to translate?
He is a guy who does not let you forget about him. If he's not playing, he'll still raise his hand at some point and let you know he's still around. I'm long past the I didn't do Egyptology in school, so I can't really read the hieroglyphics that well. So I can't. I don't know.
It's a big few weeks for Ja.
Well, I mean, we've been saying this. I wrote a column about that 2 weeks ago. When he returned, the 6 weeks until the trade deadline, this is a period of evaluation, and nothing's changed. I mean, this was Zach Kleiman. You've made this point several times. Zach Kleiman said this is a big season for Ja Morant.
He made note of it.
Yes,
right?
He did. And I think while that itself was cryptic, that was not hard to read. I think we both saw that as a comment on
we need to see this be good enough to where we feel like
we weren't going to do a contract extension this summer. We will reevaluate that based on what happens this season. That is what we both interpreted that to mean. And what's happened this season, and we're almost to the halfway point, is the same thing as last season. It's like he misses half the games, and then when he plays, he's good half the games he plays. How do you do a big contract extension on that?
We're dancing around it without saying it. Like Ja Morant might get traded, right? At the trade.
Yes,
like it's possible.
We're in the zone there where, and this sounds like you could say this about anybody, but you couldn't. I would be shocked. You'd have to pick me up off the floor if they traded Cedric Howard, right? If they traded Jaren Jackson, you would have to pick me up off the floor, but I'd be pretty surprised. With Ja, it's like it could go either way. It wouldn't be surprising. If they trade him by the deadline, I'm not surprised. If they don't and they reevaluate in the summer, I'm not surprised. It's in the zone where it's not anything could happen with that.
We talked about it last week, right? So I don't know if we need to go back through the whole process over again.
Right.
You can go listen to what we said last week. But yeah, and this feels like a critical time for we're approaching a window, whether it ends at the trade deadline or maybe into the offseason, where the franchise is probably going to be making some big decisions, and they haven't said which way they're going to go. But let me ask you this, because we've had news about Trae Young, and Trae Young's going to work with a trade, and he and the Hawks have talked, and they're going to trade Trae Young. We've had the report of Giannis. Giannis is meeting with the Bucks, and they're discussing things about his future or whatever. Do you think we're going to get anything like that with Ja? Do you think that's the way the Grizzlies operate, where it would be like a public thing if they were going to do it, or would we be surprised? I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessarily been their tendency. And Ja does not have at the moment, as you have chronicled this summer, you wrote about this, he does not have what you would call traditional NBA player representation. He has representation,
right?
But it's not the kind of agent that would set that up and have the relationship with the national reporter, and it's a little bit of a mystery box. I will say, as you get closer to the trade deadline, chatter picks up. A lot of it ends up being nonsense. Some of it comes from people who really have no idea what they're talking about, and it gets elevated into something.
Yes. Oh, God.
So that's coming again.
Not looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's coming again. But we're at the stage with Morant, for all the reasons we have talked about, that are underlying fundamentals. Remove all the noise. There's an underlying fundamental, right? They either at some point you got to trade him or extend him. We've reached the point with him now where I would be surprised if there's nothing related to him pops up anywhere, like between now and the deadline, because nothing's popped up the last couple of weeks, really. I'd be surprised if it stayed that quiet. I'd say that.
I'm still of the opinion that I want to see it with Zach Edey. Like, I
would love to see. I mean, everyone got excited. That game at Cleveland. Yeah. Here we go. John Morant, Cedric Howard, Jalen Wells, Jaren Jackson, Zach Edey. Let's go. They look great for 5 minutes, and that's the last time we saw it.
And now this trade deadline is approaching in a way where you don't think you're really going to get to see much of it at all, if you do see it at all. And so
I don't know whether Zach Edey's going to be back before the trade deadline.
I don't know either.
Yeah.
That's a big decision for this franchise to make.
Yep.
But it is a as you pointed out, the situation is the situation, right? You can't change the circumstance that the team is in at this point. And
nobody can talk or rumor yourself out of that fundamental thing. At some point,
the Grizzlies have to decide.
If you don't do an extension or a trade, you get into the Dillon Brooks situation of you take a guy to a final year and you risk getting messy and you lose him for nothing.
Right. And a player of John Morant's stature and talent, you cannot lose for nothing. It's going to be a very interesting few weeks here. There's more to life than basketball. Before we get out of here, I have a couple food questions. One, do you eat peas on New Year's Day?
Black-eyed peas?
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually did have some black-eyed peas on New Year's Day. They were out of a can. Shout out to my dad and all, but like out of a can, not quite the same. But I'm a fan of the black-eyed pea year-round.
I find peas to be disgusting, personally.
I don't like English peas, but I love black-eyed peas, purple whole peas.
You mean like green peas?
Green peas. English peas are the little green peas.
Yeah.
I'm out on that.
I'm out. I'm out on all peas, I think. Maybe Austin pea, Tennessee University. I can.
You're from this nether region, Louisville. It's not real South. I mean, come on, man. Black-eyed peas.
Yeah, no. I'll stick to what do we have there? Bourbon, whatever else. What?
Oh, I'm out on them. But I'm out on black-eyed peas on my stereo. I'm in on black-eyed peas on my plate.
Very unsurprising that you'd be out on black-eyed peas on your stereo. I'm not a fan of it. I found myself thinking about that. You as a true Southerner and that sort. You know, my wife's family is from Mississippi, so they do the black-eyed peas thing.
They know about black-eyed peas.
They make it every year. She does cornbread. And
there we go.
My mother-in-law does cornbread and black-eyed peas, and every year I feel terrible because I really like her cooking, but it's the one thing I just won't eat.
Okay.
So I'll eat the cornbread. Just no.
I made a pan of cornbread recently.
And then last thing, we do have the Grizzlies coming up, international trip coming up, and I will be writing a lot of things that you should be on the lookout for, basketball and non-basketball related, about the Grizzlies international trip to Germany and London. I was going to ask you, as someone that's been to, you went to Scotland where you got your hat, your party hat.
Yeah. We were in London for a few days before we went to
you've been
Scotland.
in London. What? I've heard that the food scene is a challenge over there. Is it what is that?
It's a major
like?
city, and so English food does not have a good reputation on its own, but it's like one of the major cities in the world, so you can find anything. But I would recommend, the national dish of England, chicken tikka masala.
Don't even know what is that?
It's Indian dish. It was actually created in Scotland.
I was like, what?
I ate chicken tikka masala in Glasgow, where it was invented, apparently. But there's a great Indian restaurant in DC, Rasika. It's like a James Beardy Indian restaurant, and on the menu, on their tikka masala, they say the national dish of London, or national dish of England, rather.
I would have guessed fish and chips.
No, we had fish and chips when we were there. I like fish and chips fine, but that's a place where I would go more international, more Indian food than I would like, what you think of as native English food.
Yeah. And Germany, you ever had Wiener Schnitzel?
I don't think I have.
No. Currywurst?
I mean, I've had various bratwursts and sausages, but yeah.
I don't know. I ran into Greg Gaston, our friend at Sports 56, who was explaining to me how much he loves Wiener Schnitzel at the game last night. So I guess I'm going to have to try some Wiener Schnitzel in Berlin.
Beer and sausage. That's kind of what you're doing in Germany, I think.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us this week. I don't know what the plan's going to be next week. I hope that we can get a Grizzlies podcast out there, but obviously Chris and I will have some rigorous planning to do given the international travel. So hopefully we'll be back with you guys next week and we can squeeze one in. But until next time, for Drew and for Chris, we're out of here.